Hi again. This is our second of two videos on the Social Science Citation Index. In this video, we'll see how to find citation numbers for specific researchers, as well as how you can use the information and tools in these types of online indexes so that you can become an expert in a topic area that you care about. So, let's go back into the Social Science Citation Index in the Web of Science. And let's say that, in our previous video, we looked at an article that where we found that the neighborhood environment in which kids lived seemed to be related to their behavior in school. And the project was led by my colleague, Jose Sapojnik. And let's say that I'm interested in, what else has Jose been up to recently? What does his publication citation record look like? What are the articles that he's doing that are being cited the most often and having the biggest potential impact on the field? So I can come in here and we could stick with what we've been using, which is this basic search function, and enter Jose's name and just select him as an author. Again, here's this drop-down list. We could put him in as an author. Or we can use this other tool here, the author search, which is in beta version. Now, here we can enter Jose's name and find all the articles that he's been an author on. You'll notice there's another option here, Web of Science Researcher ID or ORCID ID. And those are numbers. The ORCID ID in particular is a number that is used if you are involved in a lot of grant writing. It's a way of tying together all of your publication record instead of with names where two people may have the same name. Everyone's identified by a unique identifying number. Chances are you're not going to know someone's ORCID unless it's you. So you're almost always going to be using the name search. So let's enter Jose's name. Sapojnik Jose. And let's see what Jose's been up to. Now, the first thing you'll notice is it's asking, do we want to claim this record? And that's because this is in beta version. It's still being developed, and they've kind of looked at different variations of his name and different places and titles that he's had. And they think they've matched everything up, but it gives you a way to go in and look at your own record and clean things up. If you've got duplicates, get rid of the duplicates. If there's something tied to you that is not yours, that you're able to kind of point that out and help them kind of clean up your official record here. Now, we're not Jose, so we're not going to claim that record. We can look over here and see some of his citation numbers. He's been cited 6,932 times. That's a lot of times, but I bet you it's higher if we look on Google Scholar. The different number of articles that have cited him, 4878. His H index is 45. Now, we talk about the H index in a different video, but as a nutshell here, an H index of 45 means that you have 45 articles that have each been cited at least 45 times. So again, that's 45. One article's been cited 45 times. This article's been cited 45 times. This article's been 45 times. All the way to a 45th article has also been cited 45 times. So you can imagine an H index of 45 is that's a lot of papers being cited a lot of times. So that's very good. Now, we scroll over here and we see all of his publications. Now, it's saying he's got 160 publications from the Web of Science core collection. Again, I'm confident he's got more publications than that. They're just not all showing up in the Web of Science. But you can go through and start to see these. Now, the default, notice they're sorted newest first. So we see some of his first publications, his most recent publications, haven't been cited very much, but that's okay. We expect that. It takes time for a paper to start being cited. I mean, your paper comes out this year, but then people have to read it. They have to think that's great. they need to do another study themselves, write up that study, cite your work, get that paper published, and have it show up for people to read. It can typically take at least a year or two for articles to start really showing up in the citation records. So we notice kind of this year, 2020 still, he's got a number, there are no citations. That's, again, like I just said, not surprising. We keep scrolling down. Oh, here, 2018, things start to pick up. Developmental psychology, this article's been cited 10 times. Here's another one, been cited 20 times. Journal of Youth and Adolescence, cited 9 times, 13 times, up 23. So you can start it can pick up. Now, that's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things here, and it's great if you want to kind of get a sense of their different articles and how are things going. Oh, look, here's one from 2015, cited 61 times. It's a lot of articles. I mean, Jose's got 160. That's showing up. I have colleagues with even more than that. So it can be kind of cumbersome to go through and try to find, if I'm looking for one specific article. Let's say I want to find that one article on the built environment. It's going to take quite a while for me to go through all of those articles to try to find it. So there's other ways that we can also approach this. Let's go back, and instead of using the author search, we can go to cited reference search. So let's click that. And here we can enter combinations of information about a specific article as a way of further narrowing down our search. So instead of looking at all of Jose's publications, we can look at a subset of Jose's publications by going through here. Now, a few things. Notice we have 3 options of types of information that we can look at, and there's more. We can keep adding rows if we really, for some reason, need to narrow it down. We can use wildcards again. So the first I'm going to enter is his name, because I know I want to search for that article based on his name. I'm going to search for the article based on the words built environment, because I know that showed up somewhere in the title, and that'll help narrow down those 160 articles a fair bit, I hope. So let's enter Jose's name here, and I'm going to do Nick. Oops, no comma, just J star. We'll do the J star. We don't need to cap, but and he is the cited author, so that's selected. Then I'm gonna put in. I'm not doing the cited work. I want to put in the title. So I scroll down to find title, and I'm gonna type in the words built environment. And notice I didn't put quotes around it, so it could be anywhere in the title, the word built and the word environment, but that's okay. And I'm not going to do years, so I'm just going to leave that blank. And let's do our search. And here we are, and we ended up with 4 articles. There's 4 articles that Jose was an author on, that also included the words built and environment somewhere in the title. So we can see these 4 articles here, and here's the one that we're interested in, the impact of the built environment on children's, and it runs out of space. We can scroll across and get some information. Here's it telling us again, 17 citations. If we can click on the link for that article, and it takes us to this page, which gives us more information about the article itself. Now we've got the full authorship list. We have the abstract, keywords, author information, where we're from, the funding source, kind of who paid for that grant, who provided the grant that paid for the work, I should say. And then here's a list of all the cited references. Here's all the references that we have cited in our studies, in that study. Okay, we can come up to the top again. And notice kind of here it's telling us again, it's been cited 17 times. Now, you may have noticed throughout these videos when we see this number of how many times an article is cited, it's a clickable link. And if we click that link for the 17, it takes you to a list of those 17 articles. So here are all of the actual articles that subsequently cited that original study we were just looking at. Now, this is a point where if you've read this article and you're looking at it and it's like, yeah, I'm interested in the neighborhood environment. I think that neighborhoods matter and can influence how children or adults or old people feel or behave or develop. You can look at that first article and it's like, yeah, that's kind of nice. They seem to find something. And you could leave it at that and go back to whatever it was that you were doing before. Or you could take it up a notch. Bam! When you read just one article on its own, it's kind of like just reading the first chapter in a book. You might set the book aside and forget about it. But if it's something that you're interested in, don't you want to know what happens next? Where does that evolve? What happens to the characters, the ideas, the story? Well, that's where this sort of a resource can help you. It helps you fill in the rest of the story. So we had these ideas. We found some patterns, some observations. So what happened next? Did the whole idea just kind of evaporate? Did other people follow up and found that there wasn't anything there? Did other people follow it up and find that, yeah, that idea works, but it works for maybe these kids better than those kids, or it's more important for those sorts of outcomes than these sorts of outcomes, or maybe it plays a bigger role in that neighborhood than this neighborhood, or it's those features that seem to make the biggest impact. What happens next? Why just stop at chapter 1? Don't you want to, if you were interested enough to read the first chapter, don't you want to know what happens next? Where does that story lead? This is where the story leads. You can look at these articles, see kind of where did things go next. I mean, here's someone looking at students walking in Singapore, kind of the effect of living in those sorts of neighborhoods and schools. Neighborhood greenness and chronic conditions in Medicare beneficiaries. The defining neighborhood boundaries. Kind of how do you define what your neighborhood is? Oops, let's keep going. Housing design factors on conduct at school in Hong Kong. That looks very similar to this. Aren't I? If I was interested in how this worked in our study, wouldn't I be interested in, well, did they find the same thing on the other side of the planet? That would be good. With these sorts of looking at this pattern of citations helps take you from that initial seed to all the subsequent studies that kind of grew out of that. Now, of course, there's lots of other influences that those other studies had. It wasn't just based on our study. But it gives you kind of that next generation of the research. How has it evolved? It's that chapter 2 in the novel, kind of what happens. And then you can look at those articles, and some of them may be of no interest, but some of them may be very relevant, maybe things that you also get excited about that fit that interest that started you off. Look at those ones. Then who cited those studies? And you're kind of moving forward in time to see what's the subsequent research on that. How has the ideas developed? How have they evolved? What's been proven? What's been supported? Well, nothing's ever proven, but what's being supported? What's being debunked? What's happening? How is it evolving? And you can follow that thread through different lines of research this way, kind of as you're seeing different new researchers pick up the idea and run with it. I mean, this is exciting stuff. Again, it's like reading a novel. Why stop on chapter 1? Go to chapter 2, see what happens. Then based on chapter 2, what happens in chapter 3? What happens in chapter 4? Follow that thread of the idea. Follow that thread of the findings through the subsequent research. And that's how you become an expert. You become the person who understands that topic area. Okay? I hope that inspires you. Don't just sit and read one chapter in the book and set it aside. Follow the story. Follow the thread of that research. Okay? Hope you found this useful. Take care. See you later. Bye-bye.